Yeah, I walked in the employment office, and the guy looked at me and says, well, what do you want? I said, I need a job. Hell, I need a job. That's all. He says, you're hired. He laughed. So you ever lifted any heavy weights? I said, I used to fight in the ring. He said, what? I said, yeah, I fought a couple, 6-rounders, 3-rounders down in Arizona. He said, what's your name? I said, I fought under the name, I don't know, my promoter called me Kid something. I said, he said, how'd you do? I said, I lost all the fights, but I said, I'm strong. I was starving to death. Hadn't had a meal in about, I was trying to be a writer, so I was all fucked up. So he hired me. He says, I like your spirit. So I said, I'm going to put you in with a bunch of Canadian ex-flyers from World War II. I said, great. They just work with little tuna tin cans. They're high-class boys. I can tell you're high class. I said, okay, thank you. So finally I showed up with my little card. I punched in. There weren't any Canadian X-Force flyers, but with a big bunch of 8-foot blacks with 3-foot shoulders and full of white hatred. Guy said, you Bukowski? I said, yeah. He said, hey, where are your boots? I said, I don't have any. He said, put these on them, your boots. I put them on. There were 3 sizes too small. This is your hat. This tin hat on my head rang of death. I was starving. And then he said, this is what you do, man. And these big hunks of slaughtered things were running on hooks. They keep running. They come one after another. And he says, watch that man, what he did. And shit, I'd been starving for 3 weeks. I had to pick up this big thing on my shoulder. So when that hook drops, you catch it. So I caught it. This is what I got for trying to be a writer, starving. I got this hunk of dead steer on my shoulder, and the bones cut into my shoulder like knives. And I caught it, and I was weak, but all the blacks are watching, and they're thinking, Whitey can't do it. Whitey is a pansy ass because he's white. I knew what they were thinking, so I had to take it. But I wasn't only white, I was starving to death, but they didn't understand that part. I had to take it, and you take it in a truck. Then you've got to lift it off your shoulder like this, and there's a hook on a truck that carries these things. Only instead of the hook being very sharp, so you can hook this thing on it, like a tiny razor blade, it's like the end of your thumb. So you're very tired, and you reach this thing up, and you try to go like that. It won't poke through because all your strength is for lifting this off your shoulder, trying to poke it through, and you can see it's just trying to work through the skin. And there's a big black guy behind you, well-fed, strong and young. He ain't worried about writing poems. He's had a T-bone steak. He's fucked this woman. He's full of eggs and beer. He says, come on, man, what the fuck you doing there? So you go. And you never beg for mercy. That's the worst thing you can ever do. So finally you poke it through. And you go again, and the circle goes again. Here comes another one. It hits you, cuts again. You say, oh, shit. I can't fail because I'm white. They think it's only white and black. They don't realize I'm starving. I want to write a poem. I want to write a short story. I want to write a novel. I don't want to carry this dead hunk of meat on my shoulder. But they think it's just black, white, white's weak. I was weak because I was starving. But still I had some kind of guts. I went on for 4 hours, poking and working. And finally, guys, no, 2 hours. I only went 2 hours. I'm sorry. And finally somebody said, coffee break. And then the little coffee truck came up, just, I could see the lights, I could see donuts, little sugary pastries, hot steam rising. It looked like God himself had arrived on wheels with the juice of goodness and glory. I said, if I can get a cup of coffee, I can beat this night. Oh shit, I'll beat these guys, even they think it's only white against black. Even though I'm starving to death, I'll beat their asses and out of my guts. I started moving toward the coffee thing. All the blacks are guys. I'm sorry this is a black and white story, but it is. All the black workers are going toward the thing. There might have been one white in there, I didn't see him. Well, here comes this big hand on my shoulder. He said, Bukowski? Yeah, what is it? He said, before you take your coffee break, man, I want you to move that truck from stall C6 to stall C9. I thought, what the fuck is this? I'm no truck driver. I've never driven a truck the size of 3 houses. I said, this guy once again is testing my guts. I said, what am I going to do now? If I had any sense, you're so dizzy from starving, I would have said, I demand my coffee break. I'll get my coffee, then I'll move your truck. But you're so weakened and so terrified and so fucked up. I said, all right. So I went toward this big, huge truck. I'm starving, I'm weak, everything. I clamber up into I've never driven, I can't even drive a fucking car. This thing is huge. So I clamber up into the goddamn, I got my tin hat on, I'm sweating, sick. I look for the ignition key. I started, I kind of find neutral. Then I look down. You know what's in those big trucks? There's not only one set of things, like a reverse. You have about 6 sets of pedals sitting there. It's amazing. It's like a piano. I said, well, now what the fuck am I going to do? Which one of these do I hit? So I just got pissed off, and I hit one. I put it in a seeming reverse. Then I let it up, and this huge thing started backing up. I said, fuck, well, I'm doing it. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I drove this huge big truck. I circled it around. Here was stall 6. I circled it all around, further back like a real trucker. Then I pulled it up. I circled it back. And then I backed the whole fucking thing back perfectly into stall 6C. Then I was completely lost my last of my energy. And I said, well, I got to get up and get that cup of coffee. So I opened the door. There's a little step you're supposed to take on the way down. I saw it, but your body gets so tired, your eye sees the step, your foot sees it, but somehow you miss. It's kind of a haze. So I dropped all the way from the cab to the ground. I landed flat on my back. It took all the wind out of me. I got up, I said, shit. So I stood up, I walked around the back of the truck, and just as I was leaving, just as I was walking around the back of the truck, here came a little coffee truck, was dropping away, driving off to go to the next plant. So I walked toward where I was working. The guy says, okay, Bukowski, ready to go back to work? I didn't say anything. I just walked away. I walked up. There's a little place you go where you enter to get in. And I had my tin hat on. And the guy at the guard's place, I put my tin hat down. He says, what are you doing? I said, I quit. He said, Where are we going to send your pay? I said, forget it. Keep it. That was it. I walked out. I did all the fucking work. I parked. I didn't get any. I'm an asshole. What they're doing, they were testing my courage, but what they didn't realize, my body was so weak, I could have met all those challenges. Since I was starving to death, it pissed me off that they challenged me only to be white, not understanding that even whites starve to death or go crazy. So this is an anti-black statement. They didn't treat me very well. Though later on in factories, I met some good fellows. That was a bad experience. That's all. Now I gotta piss.